I never imagined that the woman who married my father would one day try to steal everything he left me. When I first found out, my hands started shaking so hard I could barely breathe. The feeling, it was like someone had reached inside my chest and ripped out the last piece of security I had. And the worst part? She did it behind my back. Quietly, secretly, like a snake sliding through the dark. My dad passed away 2 years ago, leaving me his pride and joy, a $450,000 property he had spent half his life renovating. He used to say, "This will always be your safety net, sweetheart." I held on to those words like a lifeline. But little did I know, my stepmom had her own plans. Plans she hid behind fake smiles and sugary sweet voices. I remember the exact moment everything shattered. When I got a call from a notary's office asking if I was coming in to finalize the sale of my property, I felt my whole world freeze. "What sale?" I whispered, confused. The woman on the phone hesitated and said, "Ma'am, your stepmother is here with a signed authorization to sell the property. We're finalizing papers today." My heart dropped so fast I thought I'd faint. I felt tears sting my eyes. Anger, fear, betrayal, everything blending into one unbearable punch to the gut. And that's when I knew. My stepmom was selling the property behind my back. At this point in the video, please listen carefully, because what happened next still gives me chills. My name is Melissa Carter, and this is the story of how my stepmom tried to steal my $450,000 inheritance, and how a notary ended up calling the police on her. When I rushed to the notary's office, I was sweating, shaking, barely able to drive. My breath came in short, broken gasps because the thought of losing the last thing my dad gave me felt like losing him all over again. And I wasn't ready for that pain. Not again. When I burst into the office, my stepmom turned to look at me, and the smile on her face made my blood boil. "Oh honey, didn't think you'd make it," she said casually, as if she hadn't just tried to erase me from my own life. Her voice was dripping with fake innocence. I glared at her, my anger barely contained. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I snapped. The notary, an older man with kind eyes, stood frozen between us. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "No," I said sharply. "That is not my signature. I never approved a sale." My stepmom rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. Your father would have wanted this. You're too young to handle a property." "Stop," I yelled. "Don't talk about my father. You're not selling anything." The notary slowly picked up the paper she had handed in earlier and held it up between us. "Ma'am, you signed this authorization form, correct?" he asked her. She nodded confidently. "Yes, of course." He turned the paper slightly. "Because this signature here, it looks inconsistent. Actually, it looks very inconsistent." I watched her face twitch. Just a little. But enough. I stepped closer and slammed my palm on the table. "You forged my signature. You tried to steal my property." The notary glanced between us. His eyebrows pulled together like he was putting the pieces together in real time. Then he did something that made my heart stop. He looked at me and quietly asked, "Miss, do you have your ID on you?" "Yes," I said, pulling it from my bag. My hands were trembling as I placed it on the table. He studied it. He looked back at the document. He looked at me again. And suddenly, his whole expression changed. His voice got firm. "Ma'am," he said to my stepmom, "this is not her signature. And this document is fraudulent." My stepmom's face went pale. "What? No, it's not. This is ridiculous." The notary raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Ma'am, this is forgery. And attempting to sell property under someone else's forged authorization is a serious offense." She opened her mouth to argue, but the notary was already walking toward the phone on his desk. I felt my heart pounding so loud it echoed in my ears. "Sir, what are you doing?" I asked, barely able to speak. He looked at me gently. "I'm doing what's right," he said. "I'm calling the police." My stepmom lunged forward. "No, no. You don't need to do that," she shouted, her fake confidence shattering. But it was too late. The notary spoke clearly into the phone. "Yes, I need officers at my office immediately. We have a case of forgery involving property documents." "Yes, the suspect is still here." I watched the color drain from her face. She started pacing, breathing hard, panicking. "This is a misunderstanding. I was only trying to help," she cried. I crossed my arms and stared at her coldly. "You're only sorry because you got caught." When the police arrived, everything happened fast, but also in slow motion. 2 officers walked in, and the entire room filled with tension so thick I could barely inhale. One officer asked, "Who presented the fraudulent documents?" The notary pointed to her without hesitation. "She did." My stepmom started rambling, crying, trying to twist the story. "She's lying. This is my property too. We were family. I was just handling things on her behalf." But the officer cut her off. "Ma'am, you don't have legal ownership of this property. Forging a signature is a criminal offense." "Please," she begged. "You don't understand." The officer didn't blink. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." I watched, frozen in place, as they cuffed her. Hearing the click of the handcuffs was like hearing justice closing in around her. She twisted her neck to look at me and screamed, "You're ruining everything." I stepped forward, my voice calm but icy. "No. You did that all by yourself." As they pulled her toward the door, she kept shouting, trying to manipulate, trying to twist the truth like she always did. But for the first time, no one believed her. When the door closed behind her, the room fell silent. The notary walked back to me, his voice softening. "I'm so sorry you had to deal with this," he said. "Your father must have trusted you a lot to leave you this property." I felt tears fill my eyes, but this time, they weren't from fear. They were from relief. From finally feeling protected. From finally feeling like justice wasn't just a word, but something real. But the story wasn't over. Because what happened after her arrest changed everything. I discovered secrets she had been hiding for months, maybe years. And the betrayal went far deeper than I ever imagined. If you want to know how far she went, and how justice was finally served, stay with me. When the police car pulled away with my stepmom in the back seat, I felt like the world finally exhaled with me. But I had no idea that the real storm was just beginning. Because what the officers uncovered after her arrest exposed a level of financial betrayal I never imagined someone could commit against their own stepchild. The next morning, I received a call from the detective handling the case. "Ma'am, we need you to come in. There's something you should see." My stomach tightened. A part of me wanted to believe everything was already over, that her arrest meant the nightmare was done. But deep down, I knew better. My stepmom had always been manipulative, calculating, obsessed with money. Trying to sell my $450,000 property wasn't a random act of desperation. It was part of something bigger. When I walked into the police station, the detective laid out a folder thick enough to make my heart drop. "This," he said gently, "is everything we found in her home office and computer." He opened the file, and I felt like I was punched in the chest. There were emails, bank statements, loan applications, all with my name on them. Fake signatures, fake authorizations, even attempts to transfer my property tax portal into her own email. I stared at the papers with my mouth open. This can't be real," I whispered. The detective nodded sadly. "I'm afraid it is." She's been trying to get full control of the property for months. And this wasn't her first attempt. My vision blurred as tears filled my eyes. Not again. Not another betrayal. I gripped the edge of the table just to stay upright. How could she do this? My dad trusted her. He trusted her with me. She was planning to take everything, he added. We believe she was also preparing to access your trust funds. That sentence hit me harder than anything. The trust fund was the last untouched piece of my dad's legacy. Hearing she was clawing her way toward that too made my blood boil. I want every charge filed, I said firmly through gritted teeth. Every single one. And I meant it. A few days later, I had to attend the preliminary hearing. I walked into the courtroom with shaky hands but a steady heart. I knew this wasn't just about a property anymore. This was about my father's memory. My future. My dignity. When they brought her in, she looked different. Smaller, almost pathetic. She scanned the room and her eyes locked onto mine. She mouthed, "Please, talk to me." But all I felt was disgust. Her attorney stood up and started with the classic excuses. She was under emotional distress. She believed she had some rights to the property. It was a misunderstanding. I almost laughed. A misunderstanding? Forging my signature on legal documents? Trying to sell a $450,000 property behind my back? Opening accounts in my name? Yeah. Real misunderstanding. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. My voice shook, but I didn't hide it. Sometimes shaking means you're hurting, but still standing. Your Honor, I began. This woman didn't just try to steal a house. She tried to erase my father's last gift to me. She tried to take my security, my future, and everything he worked his whole life for. I'm here today because I won't let her destroy the only thing I have left of him. The judge listened intently, and for the first time, I felt truly heard. Her attorney tried to interrupt, but the judge raised his hand, silencing him instantly. "Miss Carter," the judge said, "thank you for your statement. Your pain is clear. And your stepmother's actions were not only intentional, they were criminal." Hearing those words felt like a weight lifting off my chest. The judge reviewed all the evidence the detectives found. And honestly, it was damning. Her forged documents. Her attempts to transfer ownership. Her fake loan applications under my name. Her emails planning to sell the property as fast as possible for full cash benefit. When the judge finally spoke, his voice carried through the entire courtroom. Given the severity of these offenses, I am ordering full charges to proceed, including forgery, attempted fraud, attempted identity theft, and attempted real estate theft. Bail is denied. My stepmom gasped. Her knees buckled. For a moment, it looked like she might faint. I stood still. Cold. Detached. But not cruel. I didn't enjoy watching her fall apart. I just felt resolved. Like justice had finally stepped out of the shadows. After the hearing, the notary called me personally. His voice was warm, steady. Exactly what I needed. "I'm glad justice is moving forward," he said. "Your father raised a strong woman. He'd be proud of how you handled this." Hearing that broke me in a different way. A gentle way. Over the next few months, the case moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming, so her attorney pushed for a plea deal. She pled guilty to multiple charges. The judge sentenced her to serve time and pay full restitution, plus damages for attempted financial manipulation. She wouldn't be touching my property. She wouldn't be touching my trust fund. She wouldn't be touching my life ever again. When I walked out of the courthouse after the sentencing, the sun felt different. Warmer. Brighter. Like the universe finally decided I had suffered enough. I drove straight to my dad's property, the place she tried so hard to steal. I stood on the porch, closed my eyes, and whispered, "We won, Dad." I swear, for a second, I felt him there. I felt safe. Justice wasn't just served. It was served loudly, proudly, and permanently. And now, I share this story so no one else gets blindsided by the people they think they can trust. Because betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people who sit at your dinner table. If you're still listening, thank you. And please, protect your documents, protect your accounts, and never assume someone wouldn't do that. Because they might. And they will, if you're not careful. But you? You deserve safety. You deserve justice. And you deserve peace. Before you go, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps more stories like this reach people who need to hear them. And trust me, I have many more to tell.